What up, fam? We're about to get started, so get ready. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be back with you. It's been a little while since I've been in front of you to actually do something from the book. So I'm excited to get back with you. Just want to shout out to Takesha. Hello, hello, Lydia. Hello, hello, Charlie, Donald, Miss Deborah. Hello, always support me. Do me a favor, share the show. Give me those hearts, those thumbs ups, those likes, all that good stuff as we are about to get started. Let me just say a few things before we do get started. Please, 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 if you have not signed our petition for reparations, please do so now. And if you have, make sure that you share it. We were able to finish up the weekend with over 500 signatures. Last time I looked, it was at 580. So we want to keep that thing going and growing. So thank you for everybody that has supported the movement by doing that. And I just want to thank you for that. As you know, just let's just keep that thing moving. All right. And so let's jump right into it. Of course, we know that Yvette Cardinale is going to be coming on at 8:30. So I am looking forward to that. Monday has all of a sudden become my favorite night of the week. So if you would do me a favor, tag somebody in the video. Tag somebody in the video so they can get some of this good information. So, of course, the book that we're reading from is When Affirmative Action Was White, and we're up to chapter 2. We're up to chapter 2. Now, chapter 2 was a pretty long chapter, so I'm not going to cover all of the chapter. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to kind of break it into, chapter 2 this week and a little piece next week, or if I want to just kind of cover the big piece this week and then move into chapter 3 next week. I'll let you know about that as we go. And this, of course, is the live channel. If you want to join our group as we push towards reparations, all you have to do is go to www.adocsfamily.com and you can join our book club group, and we would be happy to have you. And you can kind of get an idea about the conversations that we're having as we move forward with this reparations movement. All right, so chapter 2 talks about the conditions in Alabama after the Selma March. So chapter 1 kind of told us about the Selma March and you know how things happened that led up to that march. Chapter 2 focuses on what were conditions like in Alabama at the time. And as you read this and as you know about Alabama right now, you'll say not a lot has changed. So it talks about the living conditions. It says there were few jobs. There were no street lights in the Negro section. That's what we call it, in the Negro section. Housing and employment was abysmal. Unpaved streets and wages were well below minimum. And the United Nations just did a study, and it said that Alabama has the worst poverty of a first world country. Just imagine that this is in the United States, a whole state where pockets of that state has the worst poverty in a developed country. And this is in our country. This is in the United States. And so we understand that was not just happenstance. It wasn't just because people were lazy. It was designed that way. And that's another subject. That's another teaching for another time. But that's by design. That's by design. And what happens is when we look at this state and we see this little snapshot, we have to realize that we have to move away from how great segregation was, or what we have in our mind as a picture of how great segregation was. I think many times we tend to romanticize it. We tend to think of segregation as just being, oh, that's when white people were separated from black people, but pretty much they lived the same life. They just had a community of blacks over here, community of whites over there. Pretty much everything else was the same. But we know that separate in this country, at least for black people, has never been equal. That's what the whole Brown versus the Board of Education was about. Separate has never been equal. And so you had wealthy whites, middle-class wealthy whites, and then a lot of poverty in black areas. The wages, $50 a week would make you wealthy in Alabama at this time. During cotton picking time, people would get paid as low as $2 a day. Now, I know adjusted for inflation is like, oh, well, the $2 a day amount. Hey, $2 a day is poverty. I don't care when you are or how you add that up. A maid could expect $10 a week. Working 6 days in laundry, you could expect $12. So give you an extra $2. At the top of the chain, people made $22.50 a week. So that's to live on. And we understand that at this point in this time, more black women were employed because they could take these type of jobs. Of course, they wouldn't let, or I won't say they wouldn't let, but a lot of men are not going to do it, and they wouldn't even let them do it anyway, because most of the times a white household is not going to have a black male in there with their white wife. That's just not going to happen unless it's the butler or something like that. And so a lot of these maids were employed. They were the ones that were bringing home supporting families in many cases, not all, no, but in many cases, it was the woman that was much more employable in supporting the families in a lot of these cases. Now, the men also were working when they could find work, but it was much more harder for them to fit into these slots. So we talk about this black despair. But see, and a lot of times we think about it, oh, wow, you know, that was Jim Crow, that was segregation, that was the South, that was Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma. That's just in the South, in those areas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, you know, Maryland, those areas. But black despair was also present outside of just the South. The Watts riots erupted during this time from August 11th through August 16th in 1965. The Watts riots erupted during that time. So it wasn't just a Southern thing. There was also a lot of repression and segregation in all over the country. All over the country. So you have these little pockets where there may have been some integration, but the majority, the vast majority, through legal means, was segregated in poverty. And so during the Great Depression, just like during 2008, with the 2008 recession, blacks were affected to a worse degree than whites. You know, if you think about the hierarchy, and you think about that it being a ladder, when that ladder shifts down, then the people at the bottom get knocked off. They're not even on the ladder anymore. And when we think about that hierarchy, we also have to remember immigration didn't really start in full force until the Immigration Act, 1965, I think it was 1965 and 1968. That's when immigration started. So up until now, we're really talking about just two different races. We're talking about the black and white race. And of course, the blacks were still a minority, but so we didn't have a lot of the strong Hispanic, contingent. There was not a strong Asian. It was mostly on the West Coast in California. So majority of time, we're talking about black and white. That's what we're having. And a lot of what happened is a lot of the gains that blacks had, because during the Great Migration, there were 100,000 blacks that moved north after World War I. And they moved north for a lot of different reasons. Most of it was to avoid the violence and segregation of the South. That was the Great Migration. Unfortunately, during the Depression, a lot of those gains that they had were lost. Well, why would that be the case? Well, you have to realize that in a labor market, a compacted labor market, as you go through the Great Depression, a lot of the people, the blacks that came north, were last in. So a lot of, not just, and if you just took it on the face value as last hired, first fired, that would be one thing. That would put them at a disadvantage. But then you have the racial component, and you wouldn't allow a black to keep a job when a white person needs a job or they're already in the job. And so a lot of blacks suffered during difficult times during the Great Depression. And at one point in the during the Great Depression, the black unemployment rate reached 50%. And so these were the conditions. These were the type of times that we're looking at. These were the type of times that our people had to go through. And so what chapter 2 just did in that little bit of, microcosm is just really set the stage of what black struggle was like. Many times we, as I said, we tend to romanticize it. We tend to think of segregation, and we had black businesses and this and all that was true. All that's very true. We did have black businesses, but understand that it was only as an offset. It was only as a mechanism, because a lot of times blacks could not go and shop at a white business, so they had to have their own business when they could. But here's the problem, is that they couldn't get too successful. They could only be successful up to a point. And as they became too successful, that's when the violence would come. That's when the oppression would come. So these were very, very trying times in the majority of the country. We tend to romanticize that area. And just last week, we went through a whole week of understanding what Jim Crow was like, how it affected people. And there was nothing romantic about it. Yes, we had some level of unity, but it was the same level of unity a prisoner has in jail with other prisoners. Yeah, you're united. You might be together. You might be working together, but you're in a repressive environment. You don't have the freedom to move and navigate like you wish you could. And into that environment, we see that whites were able, through government-sanctioned actions, many times, to move ahead, to have advantages. So it wasn't just through hard work and bootstraps that they were actually able to move ahead and take advantage of a lot of different situations. Give me just a moment. I want to pull something up here for you, because a lot of times we talk about integration and how integration impacted the black community. And for many people would say, well, integration was, that's what destroyed the black community. But it really wasn't. That's not what happened. Give me one moment here. Pull this up. Okay. All right. I'll come to that later. But anyway, I just want to set that scene for you. We're going to be going deeper into this, because this is just a setup for chapter 2. I want to dig deeper and want to show you how with this framework into this environment, this repressive environment, now you have a layer of white supremacy that affects that environment. And with government action, with government sanctioned action, it moves the white society ahead and leaves the black society behind. All right, fam. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this time. We'll be here. I will be here every Monday, at 8 p.m. going through When Affirmative Action Was White. Also, if you would enjoy being part of our family, we'd love to have you part of our book club, www.adocsfamily.com. Also, please go sign the petition for reparations, because we have to have that. And we'll dig into that a little bit later on. All right, fam, I'm out of here. Make sure to share the show, give those likes, those thumbs up, all that good stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you over at events. See you later, fam. Love you guys. Goodbye.